It's quite sad to hear people say having your phone stolen in London is a rite of passage. Your phone might be stolen at a street level, but at the top of the pyramid there's a much bigger network going on. I'm Anthony France and I'm the crime editor of the London Evening Standard. And my job is to cover all things related to the police in London and the South East, and sometimes nationally. So very much when I first started on the crime beat in 1992, very much the bread and butter for journalists were, for example, fights that happened in the town centre, robberies, murders that might have happened in the area. Although in terms of trends, crime in London is going down, the perception of crime is actually going up. And this is because very often we see crimes that get played out on social media. So people's fear of crime rises with that. We're seeing crimes now that take place that are very much more violent. So an incident, for example, that 20 or 30 years ago might have involved fists, might now involve knives or machetes, or violence that does not justify the crime that is taking place. Phone thefts or phone snatches very much became a thing as soon as these mobile phones that we have in our pockets became smarter and more expensive. So for the average person who has a mobile phone, you're carrying around nearly £1,000 worth of an item in your pocket, and of course that then attracts thieves. Plus these mobile phone devices, there aren't really that many safeguards for your details can then be stolen and used for other crimes. It very much is a very simple crime. You know, you snatch a phone and then you get away with it. Most often people don't normally get caught with it. And that in itself then breeds more people to commit similar crimes. Usually the person isn't prepared for what is going to happen, and long after the person has realised what has happened, the person has already got away. So you could have your phone stolen, and before you know it, the person, within 10 minutes, by the time you found another device to call the police, they may well be in another part of London, long gone.
Our local colleagues, please stay safe, briefing. There's lots of unarmed assets driving around trying to help over.
So very much when this crime first emerged, that the police were dealing with such crimes, but the sheer volume of them made it absolutely impossible for the police to investigate everyone. And I think one of the frustrations for victims were they were usually given a crime reference number, and then the case itself was closed down. I think what has happened now is the police have realised that public perception, public confidence is at the root of this, and what we're now seeing is the various forces that cover London, both the Metropolitan Police and the City of London Police, pouring lots of resources into these mobile phone thefts, going after the criminals, because one crime isn't committed by one criminal. One criminal is responsible for many crimes, and they know that if they take those people out, that they can then have an effect on reducing the offences. What has helped the growth of this crime in particular is these mopeds and these electric bikes. The Suron is one particular brand, which literally go from 0 to 60 in a few seconds. So for example, if you steal a phone in the West End, you can be in North London, in Islington, in minutes. And obviously police then responding to that in cars are nowhere near as fast as that. Also, the other thing that is aiding the phone theft is the fact that there is no kill switch on some of these devices. So what should happen is a person can make a call to the network provider and it kills that phone, and that phone can't be used again. And these are things that the government and the police are looking to stop. So one of the things that people are able to gain by taking someone's phone is access to your confidential data. On these phones, you might have your bank details, you've got your Amazon details. These are all valuable for fraud, and they can be used by criminals who gain access to your phone. And obviously, you may have a device that costs around £1,000, but the actual fraud that you can then commit can be multiple times of that.
Jack, police! Stay where you are! Stay where you are, police! Madam, is your phone missing? Have you got a phone? Oh, no, stay there, police.
There are people at the very top of the criminal networks who are operating, controlling people much lower down. So, for example, somebody who snatches a phone in the West End may well then sell that phone to somebody else. So somebody who might be handling these phones, somebody who may be able to get these phones out of this country into places like China, for example. There are mobile phone shops. We recently went out with the police in Finsbury Park that are involved in the handling of these devices. So your phone might be stolen at a street level, but at the top of the pyramid, there's a much bigger network going on. When we've been out with the police, we recently went out with the City of London police. They want to make their area, the square mile of London, a fortress. So what they're doing is probably the tactics that they deployed during the IRA bombing campaign in the 90s is to make sure that anybody who comes into their jurisdiction finds that they're simply not welcome, they're not welcome. So they will flood the area with police officers in response vehicles. The Metropolitan Police as well, in neighbouring areas as well, have now got officers on bikes, and those officers on bikes are able to tackle the criminals who are making their getaway on mopeds and e-bikes, sometimes even knocking them off their bikes as they're allowed by law. So the Home Office have announced that what they're going to do is limit the number of times that police have to seek a warrant to recover a stolen mobile phone. So for example, most of us have got on our phones Find My Phone, and that will show the location where the stolen device is. So in previous years, police have then had to go to the magistrate's court to seek a warrant. And when they've gone to the magistrate's court, by that time, the phone might have gone. So what the Home Office is saying is that if the device is saying that it's in a particular block of flats, that the police can go, don't need to go to court to seek a warrant. Of course, that becomes more tricky if it's a flat that is, or a house of multiple occupancy, because it's not so precise, but at least it's all moving in the right direction. Certainly when we speak to victims about what they've been through, it's quite sad to hear people say, having your phone stolen in London is a rite of passage, and that is not an acceptable thing at all. Certainly victims who have just had their phone snatched, obviously there is the invasion of their privacy, but also people who've then been mugged for their phone, they also bear the physical injuries of that. So, for a lot of people, they get traumatized, they don't want to go out, they feel unsafe where they live or perhaps where they work. And that's why the police and the Home Office and the government really need to tackle mobile phone snatching.
All right, put your hand behind your back right now.
I think the tech companies have quite a lot to do on this particular problem of phone snatching. I think very much the idea that you sell someone a phone and that's it, that's your responsibility done, I think that's now over. I think that the mobile phone companies need to do much more about the security. So for example, if your phone gets snatched, there should be a way that it can't be sold on again. There's been a lot of talk about a kill switch on a phone, that you might be able to phone from a different device or ring your network, and basically that phone has no value anymore because it just simply will not work. We do it at the moment with bank cards, for example, so you can freeze your bank card until you get it back in your possession. And I think that is the only way out of this problem. Well, I very much am positive about the outlook for tackling mobile phone snatches. I think, like all of these crimes, there comes a point where actually they drop off because technology changes, and whereas today it's mobile phones, yesterday it was laptops, tomorrow it might be some other device that people might have. So really it is positive, because for the first time I can see all the people involved in this working together, and I think that's the only way we're going to solve it.